There comes a moment in life when something shifts quietly inside you. The conversations that once made you feel alive now feel rehearsed. The laughter sounds hollow. The goals everyone celebrates suddenly seem small, repetitive, predictable. You sit in a room full of people you've known for years, and yet you feel like a stranger in your own story. It's subtle at first, a discomfort you can't explain. Then it becomes undeniable. You've changed, and nothing around you has. This is the painful awakening. It doesn't arrive with applause. It arrives with tension, with guilt, with the uneasy realization that the version of you who fit perfectly into this circle no longer exists. You start asking deeper questions. You crave meaning instead of distraction, growth instead of gossip, vision instead of validation. And when you look around, you notice that not everyone is walking in the same direction. Part of you wants to shrink back, to silence the questions, to blend in again, because belonging feels safe. Familiarity feels warm. But deep down, there's a voice that refuses to be ignored. It whispers, "You are meant for more." That whisper is not arrogance. It is not superiority. It is evolution. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung described this as the beginning of individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, separate from the collective expectations that shaped you. Most people live unconsciously, repeating inherited patterns, chasing borrowed dreams, following scripts they never wrote. But when you begin to awaken, you feel the friction between who you've been and who you are becoming. And friction creates heat. Heat creates transformation. Think about it. Every breakthrough in your life started with discomfort. The muscle grows only when it's strained. The mind expands only when it's challenged. The identity evolves only when it's questioned. Outgrowing your environment is not a betrayal of your past. It is proof that you refuse to stay stagnant. But let's be honest. It hurts. It hurts when the people who once understood you now look at you with confusion. It hurts when your ambition makes others uneasy. It hurts when your desire for depth is met with shallow distractions. You may feel lonely in rooms that used to feel like home. You may feel misunderstood, even judged, and the temptation will be strong to dial down your intensity, to laugh at jokes that no longer resonate, to pretend you're still the same person just to keep the peace. That is the crossroads. You can choose comfort, or you can choose growth. You cannot have both. Growth demands courage. It demands that you release the old identity, even if others are still attached to it. It demands that you step into uncertainty without guarantees, because when you outgrow your circle, there is often a season where you stand alone, not because you are better than anyone, but because you are different now. But because you are different now, and different is powerful. The world doesn't change because people blend in. It changes because someone dares to evolve, someone dares to think deeper, aim higher, move differently. Every visionary, every leader, every person who transformed their reality had to endure the moment when they no longer fit the room they were in. They had to choose expansion over acceptance. Right now, if you feel that tension, if you feel the gap widening between your inner growth and your outer environment, understand this. You are not broken. You are breaking through. The pain you feel is the shell cracking. You are shedding the version of yourself that needed constant approval. You are releasing the habits that kept you comfortable but small. You are stepping into awareness, and awareness is irreversible. Once you see more, you cannot unsee it. Once you know your potential, you cannot unknow it. So don't misinterpret this awakening as isolation. Interpret it as initiation. Interpret it as initiation. Life is asking you a question. Will you honor the person you are becoming, even if it means walking a path few understand to live. Because the truth is, you are not losing people. You are losing limitations. You are not drifting away from your world. You are rising above it. There is a reason growth creates distance. There is a reason the moment you start thinking for yourself, the room begins to feel smaller. It's not coincidence. It's psychology. They inherit beliefs from family, culture, friends, social media, and they run with them as if they were absolute truth. They adopt ambitions that look impressive, but feel empty. They repeat opinions that aren't fully examined. They live inside what feels normal, because normal is safe. Normal is accepted. Normal doesn't require courage. But the moment you pause and ask, is this really what I believe? Is this truly what I want? You step outside the invisible agreement everyone else signed unconsciously. That's when distance begins. The great psychologist Carl Jung called this process individuation, the journey of separating from the collective identity and becoming an integrated, authentic self. It is not a casual decision, it is a psychological revolution. Because when you individuate, you stop performing. You stop chasing approval as your primary currency. You stop molding your personality to fit every room. And that shift unsettles people who are still operating on autopilot. When you begin thinking independently, you inevitably challenge the unspoken rules of your environment. You question limiting beliefs that others defend. You pursue growth when others pursue comfort. You value depth when others value distraction. And without saying a word, your transformation becomes a mirror. It reflects possibilities others may not be ready to confront. That's why growth can feel isolating. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something rare. Psychologically, humans are wired for belonging. Thousands of years ago, being excluded from the tribe meant danger. So your nervous system still reacts to social friction as if survival is at stake. When people pull back, misunderstand you, or resist your new direction, it triggers doubt. Maybe I should tone it down. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe I should just go back to the way things were. But going back is not growth. It is self-betrayal. Individuation requires confrontation with your shadow, the parts of you that you once suppressed, to be accepted. Maybe you hid your ambition because it made others uncomfortable. Maybe you downplayed your intelligence to avoid standing out. Maybe you silenced your opinions to keep the peace. Those suppressed parts don't disappear, they wait. And when you're ready, they demand integration. Integrating your shadow means owning your depth, owning your intensity, owning your hunger for more. It means saying, "This is who I am becoming," without shrinking to fit expectations that no longer serve you. This is not about arrogance, it's about alignment. When you align with your authentic self, you feel stronger, even if fewer people understand you. You feel clearer, even if the path looks uncertain. You feel grounded, even if the crowd thins out, because you are no longer outsourcing your identity. And here's the truth. Every time you choose authenticity over approval, you strengthen your psychological core. You build self-trust. You send a message to your subconscious that your inner voice matters more than external validation. That kind of self-trust is power. Real power. So what do you do in this stage? You question boldly. Write down your beliefs and challenge them. Are they yours or are they inherited? Examine your habits. Are they aligned with the future you want or the past you're trying to outgrow? Observe where you perform for acceptance. Then practice small acts of courage. Speak the honest thought. Pursue the ambitious goal. Decline the invitation that drains you. Invest time in skills instead of shallow approval. Each action reinforces your independence. Yes, some relationships may shift. Yes, some people may feel uncomfortable. But understand this. Discomfort is not destruction. It is adjustment. The ecosystem of your in life is recalibrating to match your new frequency. And you must decide, will you retreat to keep everyone comfortable, or will you rise and let the right people meet you at your level? Growth is not meant to keep you confined to old identities. It is meant to refine you, to sharpen you, to separate you from unconscious living and awaken deliberate action. Distance is not always loss. Sometimes it is proof that you are stepping into clarity while others remain in confusion. And if you feel that distance forming, don't panic. Stand firm, because the moment you choose truth over belonging is the moment you stop living as a reflection of others and start living as the author of your own destiny. There is a stage in your evolution that almost no one prepares you for. It's the space between who you were and who you're becoming. The old world no longer fits, but the new world hasn't fully formed. You feel suspended, too aware to go back, not yet surrounded by those who understand your forward momentum. This is the loneliness of expansion. And it is here that most people quit. This is where the silence gets loud, where Friday nights feel different, where your phone stops buzzing as much because you no longer entertain what drains you, where you realize that growth has thinned the crowd. The temptation creeps in. Was it worth it? Wouldn't it be easier to just blend back in? Easy, yes, but deadly to your potential. Psychologically, this phase is critical. When you detach from familiar validation, your identity feels exposed. You are no longer reinforced by constant agreement or shared habits. You are forced to stand on your own internal foundation. And if that foundation is weak, you'll run back to noise, just to avoid the discomfort of being alone with yourself. But if you endure it, if you lean into it, something extraordinary happens. You begin to hear your own voice clearly. The great psychological thinker Carl Jung emphasized the necessity of solitude for true individuation. Without silence, you cannot distinguish your authentic desires from the collective expectations that shaped you. Without distance, you cannot evaluate who you are without performance. Solitude is not social failure. It is psychological refinement. Read that again. Refinement. Steel is forged in intense heat and isolation from impurities. Diamonds are formed under pressure, far beneath the surface. The most powerful transformations in nature happen away from applause. Why would your transformation be any different? Loneliness during expansion is not evidence that you are losing. It is evidence that you are shedding. You are shedding superficial connections, outdated habits, shallow ambitions, and shedding always feels vulnerable. When a snake sheds its skin, it is tempera, wryly exposed, sensitive, unprotected, but that vulnerability is necessary for growth. You are not empty. You are incubating. Instead of fearing this phase, weaponize it. While others are distracted, you build. While others are seeking validation, you cultivate discipline. Replace hours of social noise with reading, learning, training, reflecting. Build your body. Strengthen your mind. Expand your vision. Let solitude become your strategic advantage. When you can sit alone without feeling incomplete, you become unstoppable. Because now your motivation is internal. Your drive is self-generated. You are no longer dependent on the crowd's approval to move forward. You move because your purpose demands it. Yes, there will be nights when doubt creeps in. Nights when you scroll through old memories and feel a pull toward familiarity. That's natural. You are human. But growth is not about eliminating emotion. It's about mastering it. Acknowledge the loneliness without surrendering to it. Ask yourself, am I lonely? Or am I simply evolving? There is a difference. Loneliness says, I have no one. Expansion says, I am preparing for better alignment. One is lack. The other is transition. Every visionary, every pioneer, every individual who stepped beyond mediocrity had to endure this in-between stage. They had to walk through rooms alone before they built rooms filled with aligned minds. They had to endure misunderstanding before they found resonance. And so do you. And this phase is not permanent. It is preparatory. The discipline you build now will attract disciplined people later. The clarity you develop now will draw clarity into your circle. The standards you refuse to lower will filter your environment. But that only happens if you resist the urge to regress. Do not rush to fill the silence with the wrong company. Do not trade long-term alignment for short-term comfort. Trust the process enough to let the old fall away completely, because when you master solitude, you stop chasing belonging. And paradoxically, that's when true belonging finds you. Right now, if you feel alone, understand this. You are not abandoned. You are ascending. Stand firm in the quiet. Build relentlessly in the shadows. Strengthen your mind when no one is watching, because when the right people enter your life, they won't meet a fragile version of you seeking approval. They will meet a forged, focused, self-defined force. As you rise, something uncomfortable begins to happen. The very people who once encouraged you may start to question you. The friends who laughed with you may now laugh at you. The circle that once felt secure may begin to tighten, not in support, but in resistance. And if you're mentally prepared, this reaction can shake you. But understand this clearly. Resistance is not proof that you are wrong. It is often proof that you are transforming. Every social circle operates on an unspoken agreement. This is who we are. This is how we think. This is how far we go. The moment you exceed that invisible boundary, you challenge the identity of the group, not intentionally, not maliciously, but powerfully. The legendary psychologist Carl Jung described a phenomenon called projection. When individuals refuse to confront their own unrealized potential, they project their discomfort onto those who embody it. In simple terms, your ambition becomes a mirror, your discipline becomes a reminder, your courage becomes a confrontation, and not everyone is ready to look in that mirror. So they may say, "You've changed," as if growth were a crime. They may call you obsessed when you become focused. They may label you arrogant when you develop self-respect. They may minimize your goals, because accepting them would require them to raise their own standards. This is the shadow reaction. It's not really about you. It's about what your evolution triggers inside them. But here's where your strength is tested. Because when criticism comes from strangers, it's easy to dismiss. When it comes from familiar faces, it cuts deeper. It plants seeds of doubt. It whispers, "Maybe I should slow down. Maybe I'm going too far. Maybe I should make myself smaller to keep the peace." That whisper is the doorway back to mediocrity. Do not walk through it. If you shrink to maintain comfort for others, you abandon your calling. If you dilute your vision to avoid judgment, you betray your potential. Growth requires boundaries, not walls built from ego, but standards built from clarity. You must understand that every new level of your life demands a new level of protection. Protection of your energy, protection of your focus, protection of your mental environment. You cannot allow constant negativity to infiltrate the mind you are trying to elevate. That means you may need to limit exposure to draining conversations. You may need to stop over-explaining your goals to people committed to misunderstanding them. You may need to detach emotionally from opinions that no longer align with your direction. This is not cruelty, it is maturity. You are not responsible for carrying everyone into your next chapter. Some people are assigned to a season of your life, not the entirety of your journey. And holding on to expired connections out of guilt only delays your expansion. Ask yourself honestly, are the voices around me fueling my growth or feeding my fear? If they constantly highlight risks, but never possibilities, if they mock ambition, but glorify comfort, if they resist change, while you crave evolution, then the friction you feel is not accidental. It is misalignment. And misalignment drains power. Real power comes from alignment. When your environment supports your elevation, instead of resisting. But to reach that level, you must first endure the discomfort of standing firm when others pull back. Do not argue endlessly. Do not try to convince everyone to see your vision. Conviction does not need constant validation. Let your results speak. Let your discipline speak. Let your peace speak. And remember this: every time someone reacts negatively to your growth, it is confirmation that you are moving beyond the limitations they have accepted. That is not something to fear. That is something to respect within yourself. You were not designed to remain small for the sake of familiarity. You were designed to expand. Some will misunderstand you. Some will distance themselves. Some will attempt to pull you back into the version of you they feel comfortable with. But your responsibility is not to their comfort. It is to your evolution. Stand tall in your transformation. Protect your focus like it is sacred, because it is. Guard your ambition from those who cannot see beyond their own ceilings. And when resistance shows up, don't retreat. Recognize it for what it is, evidence that you are no longer operating at the same level. Keep rising, because the world does not reward those who shrink. It rewards those who endure the pressure of growth and refuse to fold. Outgrowing your world is not the final chapter. It is the threshold. It is the moment life hands you a blank blueprint and asks a dangerous, electrifying question. Now that you see more, what will you build? Because once you've awakened, once you have endured the loneliness, the resistance, the internal battles, you are no longer the same person who once settled for comfort. You cannot unknow your potential. You cannot unfeel the hunger for depth. The only direction left is forward. This is where you stop reacting to your environment and start designing it. The Swiss psychologist Carl Jung believed the ultimate aim of psychological development was wholeness, the integration of your strengths, your shadow, your ambition, your fear, your light, your darkness, fully owned, fully directed, not fragmented, not performed, whole. And a whole individual does not drift through life. A whole individual chooses. So choose. Choose standards that intimidate your former self. Choose routines that sharpen your discipline. Choose conversations that stretch your thinking. Choose environments that demand your best instead of tolerating your average. Growth created space in your life. Now, you must fill that space with intention. Do not wait passively for better people to appear. Become the person better people are searching for. Elevate your habits. Elevate your health. Elevate your health. Elevate your focus. When you operate at a higher frequency, alignment becomes inevitable. You don't chase it, you attract it. This is the law of expansion. When you raise your internal standards, your external world reorganizes. But it requires courage. It requires you to step into rooms where you are the least experienced, to pursue goals that stretch your capabilities, to risk failure publicly instead of shrinking privately. Because building a new world demands action, not contemplation alone. Stop asking, "Who is coming with me?" Start asking, "Who must I become?" That shift changes everything. When you take radical responsibility for your trajectory, excuses lose power. Blame dissolves. Comparison becomes irrelevant. You are no longer measuring your life against the comfort zones of those you outgrew. You are measuring it against your potential, and potential is ruthless. It does not tolerate procrastination. It does not reward hesitation. It demands execution. So execute. If you crave intellectual depth, commit to reading daily. If you crave physical strength, train relentlessly. If you crave financial freedom, master your craft with obsession. If you crave meaningful relationships, embody integrity so fully that shallow connections fall away naturally. You are the architect now. Architects do not complain about empty land. They design structures. They calculate foundations. They envision what does not yet exist, and then they build it, brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. Your habits are bricks. Your discipline is cement. Your vision is the blueprint. And no one else can construct it for you. Yes, the path may feel uncertain. Yes, there will be moments when progress is invisible. But understand this. Invisible progress is still progress. Roots grow underground before trees break through the surface. Foundations are poured before skyscrapers rise. Trust the process enough to keep building, even when applause is absent. You did not endure the discomfort of outgrowing your old world just to stand still in a new one. This is your elevation. Stop apologizing for wanting more. Stop minimizing your ambition to make it digestible for others. Stop waiting for permission to live at full capacity. You have already paid the price of isolation. You have already survived misunderstanding. You have already proven you can stand alone. Now, stand tall. Seek mentors who challenge you. Surround yourself with those who speak of ideas, not people. Align with individuals who feel inspired by your growth rather than threatened by it. And most importantly, remain loyal to the future you see in your mind. Because the person you are becoming is watching your decisions right now. Make them proud. Outgrowing everyone around you was never about separation. It was about preparation. Preparation for leadership. Preparation for impact. Preparation for a life designed by intention rather than default. So step forward boldly. Build relentlessly. Expand unapologetically. You are not here to fit into a small world. You are here to create a greater one.